Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we will read from Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th Canto, 3rd chapter, text number 13, and I will also read text 14 and 15. There's not much purport, but I'm stopping before 16. He says 16 has a very special meaning, so I requested that I could also speak on that verse, because otherwise I can't fit it all into one class. And so, because this has to do with the winding up of Brahma's activities. This is it. He's leaving his subtle body. And so to understand what happens to him, which is explained in text 16, then I'm going to go back into the creative process, and so we can understand why it happens like it happens. So anyway, it's a little complicated. This part of the Bhagavatam is a little complex. And the whole Bhagavatam can be complex, and depending on how complex our mind is. If our mind is simple, then everything becomes very easy. But when our mind is too involved in the complexities of this world, which Krishna says are just a spark of my splendor, then the mind interferes with the process of understanding Krishna. So we'll read text 13. Vayuna Rittagandhavu Salila Tvaya Kalpate Salilam Tadritarasam Jyotishtvayo Pakalpate Vayuna Rittagandhavu Salilatvaya kalpate Salilam tadritarasam Jyotishtvayopakalpate Vayuna hitagandhabu Salilatvaya kalpate Salilam tadritarasam Jyotishtvayopakalpate. Yatvaya kalpate Inandaditarasam Jyotishtvayopakalpate Vainayatagandhabu Saryantadjitarasam Jyotishthayopakalpate Vainayatagandhabu Anantadhitarasam Jyotishthayopakalpate Vainayatagandhabu Salilatvaya kalpate Jyotishthayopakalpate. Vaishnavi. Salilatvaya kalpate kalpate Vayuna, by the wind. Pitta, deprived. Gandha, of its quality of aroma. Bhu, the element earth. Salilatvaya kalpate, becomes water. Salilam, water. Tat, by that, the same element, wind. Prittarasam, deprived of its quality of taste. Jyotishtvaya upakalpate, becomes fire. Translation and purport by the servants of Srila Prabhupada. Deprived of its quality of aroma by the wind, the element earth is transformed into water, and water, deprived of its taste by that same wind, is merged into fire. Everyone can please repeat. Deprived of its quality of aroma by the wind, the element earth is transformed into water. And water, deprived of its taste by that same wind, is merged into fire. Purport. Srimad Bhagavatam gives several descriptions of the material creation by which air is expanded from ether, fire from air, water from fire, and earth from water. Now, in the reverse order, the creation is wound up. Thus, earth merges back into water from which it came, and water similarly merges into fire. I feel like an interview or something here. Microphone. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Vichaitanyamanovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakada Mahyam Dadati Swaparantikam Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pastyatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Of course, when Prabhupada was here, we didn't raise our hands like that when we chanted the Mahamantra. But it's very nice. The only problem is when you're behind in the kirtan, you can't see the deities because of all the hands. But anyway. So here, as is explained in the purport, short purport, not very philosophical or rasika, and so this is the return process. Just like when Prithu Maharaj was leaving this world, it says that he merged all the elements. He went through this yogic process of merging the elements. What's actually happening, it's not like it says he merged his mind and he merged this and he merged that. He wasn't doing it physically. He was mentally, he was giving up all these things, mental conception, giving up his attachment to the body, and therefore he offered the five gross elements of the body and then the subtle elements. Winding up. We will all have to wind up. The time of death means winding up. But actually what we're doing right now is the process of winding up. When we hear these descriptions, we should think, yes, this is going to happen to me. Let me be prepared. Let me hear Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam every day so I can wind up properly. Not that I get wound up in the moods of nature. No. That winding up we don't want. We want to wind up this material existence. So we can see the wind is very powerful. But even further on in the winding up process, the wind even is not so important. The wind actually performs, but the wind can only go up to the point of air. Then once air goes into ether, then the wind can't do that. No. That has to be done by the arrangement of the movement of the modes of nature. And this is described in the next verse. So I'll just read that. We don't have to read it, the Sanskrit. Ritarupam tu tamasa bhayo jyotir paliyate ritasparsho vyakasena bhayo nabhasi liyate kalatmana hitagunam nabha atmani liyate. Translation. Fire, deprived of its form by darkness, dissolves into the element air. When air loses its quality of touch, otherwise wind cannot perform this function anymore, by the influence of space, the air merges into that space. When space is deprived of its tangible quality by the supersoul in the form of time, space merges into the false ego in the mode of ignorance. So here, the false ego in the mode of ignorance, tamasahankara. This means the gross elements, the material body, they merge into the tamasahankara. Because there's tamasa, the material body creates ignorance. It forces us to be ignorant. It inclines us to ignorance. And so this is also fire deprived of its form by darkness. What happens when there's no fire? There's darkness. And also Krishna Surya Sam Mayahaya Andakar. And also when the supreme light of consciousness, Krishna, who gives us consciousness, is not present in our life, then Maya Haya Andakar. Then Maya takes over and darkness of consciousness. Just like we see people walking around, I see them everywhere, almost like zombies with a cell phone, like walking around, being guided by this little thing. Sometimes I go in the airport, literally everyone's just walking around like this. You have to watch out for them, because they don't know where they're going. They definitely don't know where they're going because they're following an iPhone. But physically, they don't know where they're going. And then they get disturbed if you get in the way. So anyway, that's a phenomenon that I run into. We all do, because everywhere, practically everyone, 90% of the people are walking around, guided by this little, something usually having to do with social media, which is probably the worst thing you can possibly depend on for any kind of information, truth, or understanding in life. But people are absorbed in it. Therefore, fire deprived of its form by darkness. Then air loses its quality of touch. So when people go into outer space, astronauts, most of us don't go. Some of us go into outer space in the level of consciousness, but when people go physically in outer space, there's no more touch. You start floating around. There's no control. The subtler that the elements get, the more difficult it is to control them. Just like here, we have something made of earth, we can move it. You have the same volume full of water, very difficult to move it. If you have water with no boundaries, no container, very difficult to move. It just kind of goes on the floor. And if you have the same volume by air, try moving that, and you'll find it's even more difficult. And therefore, moving the false ego, the most subtle material element, moving it, as this process is, moving it out of your consciousness, very, very difficult. So subtle, creeps in all the time. We're thinking, I have to be humble, and then, yes, I'm so humble, and I'm becoming very humble. Immediately, this false ego creeps in. So I'll just read this last verse that we'll consider for today, and then go into something else. Indriyani manubudhi saha vaikarika nripa pravashanti yahankaram swagunair aham atmani. My dear king, the material senses and intelligence merge into the false ego in the mode of passion, from which they arose, and the mind, along with the demigods, merges into false ego in the mode of goodness. Then the total false ego, along with all of its qualities, merges into the Mahat Tattva. So here we have an analysis of ahankar, 3 phases of ahankar. We spoke about tamasa ahankar. Now the senses and the intelligence, senses are subtle. They're subtle. They're gross and they're subtle at the same time. Their effect is subtle. And the intelligence merge into false ego in the mode of passion, rajasa ahankara. They merge into that. Ahankar, more elevated than tamas ahankar, but still, And that means that the intelligence can be very easily bewildered by the mode of passion. And then the mind and the demigods, they merge into sattvika hankara. They merge into false ego in the mode of goodness. So we can see even the false ego has these gradations. False ego in the mode of ignorance means very belligerent, difficult people. And false ego in the mode of passion, people using their intelligence in the wrong way. And then false ego in the mode of goodness, my mind is controlled. I'm thinking I'm very elevated above others. And then when that's still material, it's very subtle, it's goodness, so it almost becomes spiritual, but it doesn't reach the spiritual plane, and it merges into the Mahat Tattva. And the Mahat Tattva, which we will see in the next verse, which we're not going to read today, because the next verse refers to Maya. This has been a description of Maya. A few days ago I spoke about this, a few stories related to that, how Maya is so powerful. So now we're going to see it in a more philosophical way, how this Maya is very powerful. And it refers us back to the Chatushloki verses, the second Chatushloki verse, which we'll discuss some tomorrow. So this merging into the Tattva is, on a practical plane, if we go back over this on a practical plane of experience, aroma going into the wind. Yes, the wind, when the wind blows, it takes aromas away, just like Bhagavad-gita 15th chapter. It speaks about how the wind carries the aroma, takes it away. It carries it like you have some nice preparation, some nice sabji or something. The wind comes and it brings it to you, it carries it. And so this is practical. Then earth transformed into water. If you put something into water for enough time, even the hardest element, it will dissolve. The earth merges into water naturally. Water has that element of absorbing again the earth, and water merging into fire. That's more difficult. Usually we see water as putting fire out. But if water is near fire, what happens to it? It evaporates and it goes into the fire. Otherwise, this fire dissolves it. And so the heat can absorb water. And then fire into air. When fire is burning, then the smoke goes into the air. The smoke is the burnt part of the fire, the exhausted part. It merges into the air. And air merges into ether. We see that. Just like this planet, it has an atmosphere of air. And as you go farther out, I've never been there, but even if you go in an airplane, when I was young, I took flying lessons, and but in those little airplanes, you don't have any, especially in those days, there was no cabin pressure. So the farther you went up, and I had to also parachute out of airplanes. And when you open the door, the air pressure goes out, and you see there's less air. And the farther you go up, less air, it's merging into space. And then space merges. And so it's a very practical thing. The Bhagavatam sounds very esoteric, but it's a very practical thing. So all this is bringing us to the point of understanding how this whole material nature and all of us within material nature are controlled by Maya. And this will lead to the next verse, which has already been spoken about, but it will be detailed. Brahma leaves his body. And what will happen to Brahma, we'll deal with that tomorrow. So to understand that clearly, I want to go back to the second canto, 9th chapter, where Brahma addresses the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He's bewildered. And all of a sudden, the Lord, he gets this understanding, tapa. Then he begins to meditate for 1,000 years. And then, after he meditates for 1,000 years, the Gayatri mantra enters into his heart and informs, he gets information from the Lord. So he's getting this understanding through the Lord, but he doesn't fully understand who the Lord is. It's all bewildering. And then all of a sudden, at one point, the Lord comes to him and appears before him. And he's totally bewildered. Showing that he's Brahma, he's the most intelligent person in the universe. He can know what anybody's doing at any time. We can't know that. Even with the most sophisticated spy agencies, you can't understand that. Even with the most sophisticated spy satellites, which they have nowadays, they can actually hear what you're doing in your home. They can, if they tune in to you, they can pick up what you're speaking. So be careful what you speak. Somebody may be checking up on you. So then he speaks. Brahma speaks. He sees the Lord standing before him, and the Lord touches him. And he's even more bewildered. And then he says that Bhagavat chikshitamaham, that I want to understand that Lord. He's not even sure. He understands this must be the Lord, but he speaks, the Lord who has given me this information, are you the same? He's wondering, are you the same? No. Tanabani yatendriya dritaha. I want to be sure that these senses that you have given me, now he's understanding, as he begins to speak, he's understanding that Lord which gave me the information is the same Lord which is before me, but I want to make sure. So then he says that I want to understand, and that understanding, and I want to make sure because I understand you're giving me the ability to create, and therefore nevaman ha praja sargam. I want to understand because I'm going to be instrumental in creating these prajas. He doesn't say I'm going to create the living entities, but I'm going to create the prajas, the prajapatis. And therefore, he says that badhyeyam yad anugrahat. By your mercy, I want to be sure that I am not conditioned by this. I want to be an instrument. So this is very important. This is the process of Guru. You want to be an instrument. You don't want to be conditioned. So he's begging the Lord, please don't condition me. This is so difficult because the tendency is when you get a big position, you become a little puffed up and you forget about the actual, you become conditioned. And then you can't fully do your service to the 100%. Then he speaks again, also trying to understand what's happening here. Yavat sakha sakyur ivesha te krita. He says that, my Lord, Srila Prabhupada says it very interesting. He says, you shook my hand. It doesn't literally say that in the verse, but Prabhupada puts it like this because that's how we kind of greet each other in this world, at least business people, and not people you don't know very well. You don't usually shake hands with your wife or husband, but your kids. But but it's interesting because in ancient times, people would offer their hand, show I don't have a weapon. I'm coming in peace. This was how the handshake began. I don't have a weapon. The other one, I don't have a weapon, so okay, we're going to talk. We're going to deal with each other in a civil way. I'm not going to cut off your head. I'm not going to fight you. So it's interesting that Srila Prabhupada put it like that. And then he says, Praja visarge bibajami bho janam. Oh, my dear Lord, I want to make sure when I do this process, praja visarga, I want to make sure that I do it in a proper way. And because the people must be manifest, in the proper way. And then he says, viklavaste parikarmani stito, that I want to make sure the parikarmani, a very interesting word, that is done through the agency of devotional service. These transformations that I will be instrumental in, they are done as devotional service. Parikarmani, interesting. It says, it's basically saying that devotional service means that everything is included. Otherwise, you don't have to do devotional service and then you have something else to do on the side. Everything is included. And then he says the most important thing, that make sure that this doesn't happen. Me samunada madho ja maninaha. He says, make sure that I don't become proud. And the word mada aja, oh my Lord, Mada means insane, crazy, maddened. Make sure I don't become maddened by pride. This is how dangerous pride is. When Krishna describes in the 16th chapter, begins to describe demoniac activities. What is the first thing he says? Dambo, Darpam, Abhimana. No? Three things, that basically the same thing. He's almost repeating it 3 times. Dambo, Darpa, Abhimana. Pride, arrogance, conceit. No? Basically the same. It's 3 times to show how dangerous this is. No? This pride is so dangerous. No? It makes you bewildered. And then what happens? Krodha. No? Krodha parusha. No? Krodha, you become angry. If you're proud and things don't go your way, then you become angry. Kama, krodha, lobha. No? First there's desire. If desire doesn't get satisfied, there is krodha. And if you get satisfied, lobha, I want more. No? It's very dangerous, this kama. No? And then it creates bewilderment, no? Moha. And then mada, madness. No? Just like people nowadays, they get intoxicated. It's madness. It's like, let me go into a mad state of mind for 2 or 3 hours. No? What is that going to do? No? It's all caused by matsarya. No? It's all caused by envy. No? And so dangerous, this material world. How careful, what a relief is Bhagavad-gita. No? So this is all very technical. We thank Krishna that we have the holy name. No? And in the holy name, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructs us, no, that one should become humble. He says, Nam namakari bahura nija sarva shaktis. No. Within this holy name, everything is there. Everything you need. All potency, all power, and so many names. Just like we sing to Lord Nrsimhadev in the morning. Actually, for one who is on the platform of pure devotional service, through the Mahamantra, he's addressing Nrsimhadev, he's addressing Narayan, he's addressing because it's all included in Krishna. But because we need protection, it's such a dangerous place. Padam padam yadvi param natesham. This material world is such a dangerous place that we have to, seek protection. We have to ask the Lord for protection. When one is actually on the topmost platform, Uttamadhikari, he doesn't ask for protection. Although he does sometimes because he's humble. He doesn't think I'm an Uttamadhikari. But generally he doesn't even think to ask for protection. He knows the Lord will protect me. But sometimes when he realizes that I am an insignificant living entity, then I must ask for protection. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya tells us, Trinadapi sunichena, that you must become humble. Otherwise this pride will ruin everything. Pride is so dangerous. So you must become humble. And how do I know if I'm humble? How can I tell? Tarori vasi hishnuna. If you're capable of tolerating, then you can know I'm developing some humility. If I think I'm very humble, but I can't tolerate anybody, I can't tolerate the difficulties that happen to me, which essentially means I can't tolerate Krishna. And the way he's manifesting my destiny through his energies. I can't tolerate Krishna. That's not a very good attitude. We must. So tolerating Krishna, tolerating others, this tolerance is very, very complex matter. And how do I know if I'm tolerant? Amanina. I don't want anybody to glorify me or, I'm not interested in that. And the most difficult thing, manadena. I must see everyone as a wonderful spirit soul. I must see them that way. So very, very difficult. But Krishna says, if you want to become dear to me, you have to do this. And so this is Brahma's petition. Don't allow me to become proud. Don't allow me to become deviated. Badhyayam. Bada means fallen. Kid condition means fallen. Don't allow me to become fallen, my dear Lord. And then the Lord speaks. Because the Lord, now He's going to reveal why you are bewildered. He speaks, He says, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Jnanam Paramaguyante. That I'm going to give you knowledge, which is very confidential. And what is that confidential knowledge? Yad Bhijnana Samabhitmritaha. And it will come with, it will be accompanied by realization. It's not just knowledge. Just like we get all this information now in the technological age, but it's not accompanied by realization. So I'm going to give you realization. Not just some information, but realization. So, Sarahasyam Tarangam Cha. You will be able to understand this secret. He speaks 2 times, confidential. This is very confidential. How will you understand it? Grihana Gadidam Maya. You capture it in your heart because I will be giving it to you. Tarangam Cha. This is the paraphernalia. He's giving Brahma paraphernalia, but what is that paraphernalia? It is paraphernalia of knowledge. He's not giving him a water pot or some other type of paraphernalia. And then the Lord continues. He says, Yavan aham. What are you going to understand? Aham. You're going to understand me. Yatta bhavo. And you're going to understand realize my inner self, my mood, my sentiment, my existence. You're going to understand. I'm giving you this. And also, tad rupa guna karmakaha. And I will explain to you. Once you understand who I am, then you will be able to see my form. Then you will be able to understand my qualities. Then you will be able to understand my activities, which are very intimate. Tataiva tattva vijnanam. I am going to give you this very deep understanding of myself. And then there's 2 Madanugraha. This will all be done by my mercy. Otherwise, it is devotional service. He mentioned before, this is all devotional service. This is all understood through devotional service, which means His mercy. And Srila Prabhupada comments that mercy is the most important quality of a civilized human being. Otherwise, without mercy, if there's no mercy, then how can people get along? Because we're all, especially in condition, we're all conditioned, we're trying to become unconditioned. So how will we all become peaceful? How will we get along in this world if we don't understand this? And then Krishna goes into the Chatushloki. Aham evasam evagre. Before there was everything, before what I'm doing now, I'm starting the process of creation. But understand, before that process of creation, I was there. It's not that we are, like the impersonalists think that, yes, Krishna was created. They think that. There's some energy that floating around, some energy field, Brahman. And out of that field, Krishna is generated. And then Brahma, he comes out too. No, this is the Mayavadi. So Krishna is making it clear, no, there is you and there is me. And therefore the Vedas also collaborate, no, that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Nityo Nityanam Chetanas Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. That there is the first, the most conscious being, and then there are conscious beings that come from that. There is the eternal being, and there are eternal beings that come from that eternal being. Otherwise, there's Krishna, and there's everything else. And there's Krishna's awareness of everything, and everyone else's awareness come from that. And everyone's needs. Krishna is the provider. Eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman. I am the provider for everyone, for everything. No? You may see the secondary provider. You may see the third provider. But I am the initial, original provider. So, he is telling Brahma that this is all happening by me. No, this is all happening by me. And therefore, going back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, going back to Shikshastika, because we have to understand that Shikshastika is explaining this whole aspect that's going on in the 9th chapter of the 2nd canto. This is how Shikshastika began. We're very fortunate. We don't, although we should be studying it in the Bhagavatam, sometimes it's difficult to understand. So Lord Chaitanya explains it, this whole Bhagavatam, in terms of the Shikshastika. So he says that I have unlimited potencies. I am that Supreme Person. There's no difference between me and my name, Abhinatvam Namanamino. There's no difference. So that's the first, and if you understand that, then you can Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Then the holy name will begin to take effect. But because the holy name is so great and so powerful, I may not understand the holy name. And therefore, I am not taking advantage, Durdaivam Idrishami Hajani Nana. I'm not taking advantage of its presence. Just like Narottam Das Thakur says that that Tarashakshi Jagai Madai. The Jagai Madai, they got your mercy, but I'm so foolish that I cannot understand your mercy. Guru Kera Premadan Harinam Sankirtan. Your mercy has come in the form of the holy name from Goloka Vrindavan, but I cannot capture it. I have no attraction. Even though Janiya, Shunya, even though I have the theoretical knowledge and so many people tell me, but I don't want to worship Radha and Krishna. No? So I'm so foolish. No? And even though Chaitanya Prabhu and Nityananda have come and saved people like Jagai and Madai, who can be worse? Of course, now we have many mini Jagais and Madais. You know. They're not so powerful. They're like mini version. They're pretty miserable, but they're not quite that. They're not as potent. Just like we have demons nowadays, but they're not like Hiranyakashipu. No. They're just little demons. Little. But they do, a lot of little demons together can do a lot of destruction. Just like little bacterias. One little bacteria can't do much, but they come in millions and they attack you, and cause so many problems. So we're very fortunate that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us these provisions, humility, tolerance, and absence of false ego, and being merciful to everyone. He's given us this. But how do you see, how do you understand if I've actually realized this? Nadana najanana sundari kavitava. Because I have no attraction for wealth. I have no attraction for followers. I have no attraction for the opposite sex. I have no attraction for fruitive activities in this world. That is, everything is very scientific. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not just speaking some, some emotion. It's not some emotion. We get carried away by emotion. But Mahaprabhu is giving a very, it's emotional because it's based on chanting the holy name. And Lord Chaitanya goes into an ocean of emotions when he chants the Shikshastika. But it's very scientific. And then, if you can do this, what happens? Then you realize who you really are. Because you realize that I'm caught in this ocean of birth and death. And if I realize this, and I realize that tapakripa pada pangaja stitaduli sadrivchintaya, then I can realize that I am an atom at the lotus feet of Krishna. Now, how do you realize that? That's what Krishna is explaining to Brahma just before and into the Chatushloki. If you realize how great Krishna is, then you can become an atom at his lotus feet. Otherwise, how will you become humble? By realizing how great Krishna is. And therefore, glorifying Krishna is the secret to that Shikshastika can manifest, that the holy name can manifest. I understand who is Krishna. I'm hearing about his holy name, his form, his qualities, his activities. And as I hear these things, and again and again, and I especially karma, that I'm hearing about his activities, janma karma, that chame divyam, that these transcendental, wonderful spiritual activities of Krishna, I realize how great Krishna is. I realize how his expansion through the unlimited universes, how great he is. But I realize how he expands into our heart, as we become more surrendered, as we become more aware of his greatness. And then I can actually become humble. Then I can actually be an atom at his lotus feet. If I compare myself, if I enter into the relative world, I start comparing myself with others. I've been around X amount of years. I'm more advanced than most devotees. I've been around longer than anyone else. I must be the most advanced devotee. Everyone's glorifying me. They must be right. No. So many people, you can't fool all the people all the time. So everybody's glorifying me, I must be glorious. And so you start thinking like that. But if your main effort in life is to glorify Krishna, and therefore Srila Prabhupada prescribed for us, and all of our acharyas prescribed for us, we chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. No? And everything's contained there. But I have to realize that. No? Just chanting the Mahamantra is sufficient. What do the Babajis do? No? They just chant the holy name 24 hours a day. No? Because they've already realized it. They came to that Babaji stage by studying the Bhagavatam, by studying Bhagavad-gita, by doing sacrifices and penances and austerities and so many things. We'll read about this in relation to the next verse, even Brahma. He's everybody. You don't become a Paramahansa, just by, I took the Bhakti Shastri, I took the Bhakti Vaibhava, now I'm almost a pure devotee. Now I'm doing Bhakti Vedanta, almost there. Bhakti Sarvabhauma, I made it. I'm up here to... No, it's not by courses. The courses will help you to understand the Bhagavatam, to understand Chaitanya Charitamrita, to understand Bhagavad-gita, so that I can chant the holy name in a humble state of mind. All this knowledge is bringing us to that point. Because after we really assimilate all this and we preach, that's why preaching is so important. That's why the Sankirtan movement is so important. Because we put into practice what we're hearing. If you just hear it and you sit around and wait for the Mahaprasadam to come off the altar, then you won't really understand. It's all theoretical. It's all knowledge, just some knowledge. But realized knowledge, as Krishna says, I will give you realized knowledge. I'll give you knowledge, but confidential knowledge. And I will make sure that you realize that knowledge. Just do what I say. That's basically what Krishna tells Brahma. Just do what I say, and I will reveal myself to you. And when I reveal myself to you, you will realize just what you've requested me. You don't want to become proud. When you realize me, I'm telling you how to not to become proud. You realize me. Then you won't be proud. Then you'll give up your pride. You'll give up your nonsense. You'll give up all your material qualities. You'll give up your material consciousness. And then you will be able to enter into pure chanting of the holy name. But it's a reciprocal process, interactive. Krishna consciousness is interactive. Because by chanting the holy name and trying not to commit offenses against the holy name, then you will be able to, you will have more purity of consciousness, so I can understand Bhagavad-gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, nectar of devotion, nectar of instruction. I will be able to understand these things by the mercy of the holy name. And by the mercy of the deity who appears to me and exhibits his transcendental beauty. And my compliments to the pujaris. Every day I see is so beautifully dressed. Thank you, all the pujaris, for wonderful service. And all this, all the devotees serving together, we contribute in the society of Vaishnavas to help one another, to bring one another up. And therefore Lord Kapila says, Satam Prasangam Mama Virya Sambido. Wherever there is assembly, where the Lord is being glorified by persons who are not interested in material consciousness or material life, then Bhavantit Hritkarna Rasayana Kata. Then this message of Krishna consciousness can enter our consciousness and our heart. So this is such a wonderful thing that's being explained here. It just looks like some dry philosophy, earth into water, water into fire, fire into air, air into space, space into into intelligence, into the senses, into the mind, into the intelligence, into the false ego, goes back into Mahatattva, and I go take prasadam. That's it. But it's actually a very deep process, and we have to try to understand it scientifically, and then Krishna, everything will become revealed. So even in these very technical verses, if we really understand why this is being spoken, so I understand I'm going to have to do this. I have to wrap this up, and therefore I have to understand what's going on, and I have to understand how Brahma became pure, and he could actually do his service of creation, having a pure state of mind. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to do it. Now, when we study the next verse, we will understand Brahma, the Karmi Brahma, Jnani Brahma, and Bhakta Brahma. So it's very interesting how this is explained. So I will stop here with this, try to explain some aspects of these verses. Any comment, any question?
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for wonderful class Maharaj. You explained very practically many things. In that I have one doubt. In Brahma, when Lord said this Chatusloki Bhagavatam, that time he was understood everything and he explained, Lord also explained everything. And we know that Lord Brahma is the authority in means Mahajana Yenagata Pantha. He comes, we follow him. When he comes in the form of Haridas Thakur, he was able to deliver that Vaishya. And he was able to control his senses, and he made he given Diksha for Maya Devi also. And but in the form of Brahma as a pure devotee, and in the form of Haridas Thakur as a pure devotee. So Brahma also many times committed offenses, offenses to the Lord when Brahma Vimohan Leela, or even he got attracted for Saraswati, married also. So how we can understand these two consequences, and what is lesson for us in this?
The two what? So, yeah. Sometimes he's not a pure devotee. We'll study that in the next verse. So keep your question until we get to the next verse. And then you'll see, sometimes he's acting out of duty, but he's not on the pure, he's a pure devotee because he's following Krishna's instructions. But sometimes he is not an uttamadhikari. No. He's just following Krishna perfectly. That's how we can understand how gurus in ISKCON, they may not be uttamadhikaris, but because they're following the uttamadhikari, which is what Srila Prabhupada says, if you follow the uttamadhikari, you can act like an uttamadhikari. You may not be one, but you can act because you're not changing anything. You're being very careful. No. You may be a madhyamadhikari. No. Even we'll see in tomorrow's verse how sometimes Brahma is not even a madhyamadhikari, but because he's following perfectly. No. He's following that's difficult to understand, but it just shows how important it is to follow perfectly. No. And we'll study that more in the next verse. Okay? So don't be late. Okay.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you Maharaj for this wonderful lecture. Maharaj, I wanted to ask that you talked about wanting to be an instrument in the hands of acharyas and realizing it. So my question was that one thing is knowing a fact that we have to be the instrument in hands of acharyas, and we have to like what Prabhupada has done for us and what are his expectations and how we have to work hard for him. So I face difficulty in actually realizing these things apart from knowing just the simple fact.
We have to work hard for anything, no? Otherwise, everyone in this world, Krishna says in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad-gita, everyone is forced helplessly to work hard. Nahi kasnikshanamapi chatutitatya karmakrit. Everyone is forced to work hard. So, Srila Prabhupada said that a devotee is working harder than anyone else because we work 24 hours a day. No. Even when we're sleeping, we're working. No. Hopefully, if we're not so advanced, we may be taking time off and sleeping. But actually, a devotee is thinking, a devotee should pray. If I'm not just meditating on Krishna in my sleep, which most of us probably don't do, so that we pray before sleeping. I have this material body. This body needs rest. My Lord, please let me offer this rest in your service so that I can serve you better. At least that much we should do. No, not just, okay, now 6 hours of bliss. No, but no, that now I can get some relief. No, we should think this is my service. So a devotee is working very hard. Srila Prabhupada said that working harder than anyone else. So we should analyze our own activities in Krishna consciousness. Am I always engaged? Either I'm speaking about Krishna, I'm worshipping the deity, I'm taking prasadam, I'm doing sankirtan, I'm working to support my family, whatever our situation may be. But we have to do it all as a service. And the more we meditate on that, even the most mundane activity, as Rupa Goswami says, Iha yasya Hare dasye karmana manasa gira nikilasvya yavasta su. Even though it may be appear to be just like an ordinary material activity, jivan mukta sa uchate. If we do it as service, and we're meditating that every action, every word, and every thought is offered to Krishna, then it becomes transcendental, the most mundane activity. So we should point is in devotional service, we do work very hard. It's not like, let me be a brahmachari, then I don't have to work. Brahmachari works harder than a grihastha. He should be working harder than a grihastha. It's just that his work is different. It's more blissful work if you do it nicely. But, we should be working harder. Sometimes that work may be mental. It may be intellectual. But a brahmachari is always engaged. A sannyasi is always engaged. A pranapasta is always engaged. Grihastha adhikar. They have, they're allowed to slip a little bit. They're not, that means, between grihastha griha medi. You slip a little bit. But if you're really a grihastha, you'll also, Srila Prabhupada said that I sent these 3 couples to England, they were doing more than the sannyasis. With a baby, like a 6-year-old baby going to open a temple, How many Matajis here can go open a temple with a 6-year-old baby, a 6-month-old baby? Not a very easy thing to do. But when you're inspired by the parampara, you can do anything. You can do so many wonderful things. But if you're not inspired, we'll be finding faults with each other, thinking that I know better than everyone else, and then wasting time on the platform of the false ego, instead of surrendering to Krishna and surrendering and serving the Vaishnavas. So it's our choice. What do I want? I want to be a Vaishnava, or I want to be I want to do what Brahma, we just heard Brahma said I don't want to do. If Brahma says I don't want to do it, we should also not want to do it. I mean, he is our leader. He's the head of our parampara. We should do what he says, follow his example. Okay, we're already actually out of time.
Hare Krishna.
So why don't you just come up? I want everyone to take prasadam and be happy. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.